Paul, I recognize some faces already. How wonderful.
Good to see you, Missy.
Yeah, thanks. Mm, okay. Right. Wow. It's always like the stars coming out at night, seeing everybody's cameras come on and everyone's faces. Very nice. Now, Isabella, did you want to do any introduction or shall I just get started straight away?
Um, we can do a little introduction. I think
Just to, at least to introduce your center.
yes, absolutely. So, we're working. So I am from representing Land of Medicine Buddha, and we've had the absolute privilege and honor to be able to work with Miffi previously in another course that ended up being really, really lovely. So, and we had such great feedback, and Miffy's just an absolute rock star of a teacher, and beautiful person in general. So it's just, I feel super grateful that we get to have you again, Miffy, and that we get to do this course. And the content is, I'm super excited. It's going to be really enriching, and hopefully everybody can benefit from these practices and gaining wisdom and knowledge through your teachings. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, well, thank you. It's a very warm welcome indeed, and I'd like to extend that warm welcome to everybody here. I think we've got people both on both sides of the world, Australia and America. And yeah, I've also been really looking forward to this course because I don't know, all these balancing emotions courses are always very timely. Uh, and so, yes, it's about becoming your best self. And that's tricky when it seems like the whole world around us is getting worse and worse all the time, though I think human beings have always experienced the world like that. Uh, but how do we keep our head above water and how can we bring forth our innate good qualities? So this course is it's 6 weeks and it's based on authentic Buddhist teachings and some things from kind of popular science and neuroscience, pop psychology, that kind of thing, a bit of a mix. So I'll let you know uh, what it is as we go through. It's going to be relevant whether you're Buddhist or not, whether you're religious or not. Um, human emotions are universal things. Also, we're all unique human beings and we have different characteristics and personalities, but fundamentally we share a lot of similarities. So we all want to be happy. We're all seeking fulfillment. We're all questioning. We all want to make our life worthwhile and matter. We all wish to help others. So we're going to go on a big adventure together with all of these topics. So as Isabella said, my name's Miffi. I'm the program coordinator at Lungri Tangpa Centre in Brisbane, Australia. I was brought up a Buddhist, so Buddhism's kind of in my blood. It's my first language, I suppose you could say. But I also grew up in inner city Melbourne in an art scene, so Western sensibilities really in my blood as well. I've done some formal Buddhist study and then an amateur enthusiast about all things neuroscience, of course. So, what I'm aiming to do is to be a bridge between Buddhist study and our modern sensibility. So, I actually wanted to start with a question, a big question. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What's our purpose? You know, becoming our best self. Why? What's it all for? We've all had that kind of question, haven't we? We're probably very small when those questions first started in our mind. So, you know, just take a moment to think about what you'd answer if a small child asked you this question. What's the meaning of life? If you want, you can stick something in the chat, or you can just kind of contemplate for a moment. And I'll share what His Holiness the Dalai Lama said about this. So someone actually asked him in a diner in America, actually, the waitress said, you know, Your Holiness, I've always wanted to ask you this. What is the meaning of life? And His Holiness said, it is to be happy and to be useful. Isn't that amazing? It's all there in one line. So how are we going to bring this about? If we want to be happy and we want to be useful. So part of this means figuring out what happiness is, what's thwarting our happiness, what's an engaging activity, what's worthwhile, what's useful, how to become a better person, not a worse person as we get old. We don't want to get old and cranky. How to become more authentic without having to pretend to be a good Buddhist or pretend to be a good person, you know, and have imposter syndrome. So becoming your best self actually means bringing forth your innate human potential. So we all have a potential. From a Buddhist point of view, we have a potential to become a Buddha because the nature of our mind is no different from the nature of a Buddha's mind. So the tricky thing is, how do we bring that forth? How do we unbury it? How do we actually cultivate causes of happiness? Because we all want happiness, but doesn't mean that we get it. So what do we have to do to actually achieve a sense of lasting happiness? And discovering an authentic direction through life. Being true to yourself, being in step with reality, bringing forth all of our best qualities. So I have another quote from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. The quality of mind, known as Buddha nature, gives us the potential to free ourselves completely from all suffering and the causes of suffering, and to achieve any happiness we wish, including the peerless happiness of enlightenment. Since the mind has all this potential, we do not need to feel depressed or hopeless. It's not as if we have to experience problems forever. We have incredible freedom to develop our mind in any way that we wish. It's simply a question of finding the right way to use this potential of our mind. So that's what this course is going to be about. How are we going to do that in 6 short weeks? Well, we're going to shove everything we possibly can in. So the outcomes of the course, what we're going to have a look at, let's go through. Today, we're going to look at what is happiness, how to cultivate a happiness that comes from within instead of constantly chasing it and losing it. And in that is a new way of looking at goal setting that reflects our values. So that's today's topic. Next week, we'll look at what actually stops us being happy. So what distracts and derails us. And from a Buddhist point of view, this is about the 8 worldly concerns, guarding ourselves from distracting influences, from corrupting all of our good intentions, our good-heartedness, and finding an authentic path through having a really clear motivation. The third week, we're going to invest in our innate good qualities. And so this class is on what's called the 3 higher trainings. So it's what we need to actually train in. It doesn't come naturally, but we can train in it to really develop our innate potential based on a sense of ethical conduct, developing our concentration, and being able to see through all the spin and confusion with wisdom. Week 4, finding the hidden wisdom in depression and anxiety. Because Buddhist psychology has a very radical approach to these types of suffering. So instead of trying to get rid of them, it actually sees these depression and anxiety as symptoms of an illness. So really looking at the root cause rather than just trying to put a Band-Aid over it. And there is huge wisdom in there if we stop fighting against it and figure out how to listen. Week 5, dismantling the negative habit cycle. Or mastering the habit cycle. So normally we're in a reactive cycle. It's called feeding the monster, and it just makes everything worse. So how we can dismantle it step by step, and there's something we can do every step of the way. And then we can naturally develop positive habits for optimal flourishing. And the final week, we'll look at what you need to do every day. How to step into your best self. So whether we're religious or not, there's a few key ingredients that we need to actually be able to become our best self. And we can, even with limited time. So there's some handouts that were probably sent out to you earlier, or they're online for the package, but I'm also going to share the slides anew each week, and we'll have a meditation at the beginning, at the end of each class, just so we can kind of deepen the experience a bit. And also in the handouts, there are some reflection sheets. And the reflection sheets are really the difference between it being just an interesting course or actually being life-changing. So the difference is how much we engage in it. And so you don't get many guarantees in life, but I'm going to give you one. And the guarantee is if you put the effort into just filling out those questions on the reflection sheets, and there's only a couple of lines for each one, it's not like a whole paragraph, it's going to get things going. It's like tricking yourself into it. Just jotting down some things and your life will change just by the initial momentum. It really makes all the difference. Because otherwise what happens is we find everything very interesting and we become more and more learned and more miserable, because if we can't actually apply it, then we understand it all and yet we're still unhappy. And that's a terrible position to be in. You don't want to fall into that. So you want to really take it into your life week by week and start using it. Makes all the difference. Okay, so let's just start with a short breathing meditation just to set our focus. Oh yes, there's the self-reflection questions for encouragement. And now the 9-round breathing, I'm not sure if you've done this before, but it's a really easy meditation to do, and it's a fantastic way of settling our mind. So let's do this. First, just set your posture, a nice straight spine and a relaxed body. So once you have straightened your back, let your shoulders drop. As you breathe out, release any tension or discomfort. And gently bring your focus to the rising and falling of the breath. Just letting the body breathe itself. And now imagine that as you breathe out, you're breathing out through your left nostril and you're breathing out black smoke. And this black smoke is the physical representation of all of your anxieties and worries and doubts and sicknesses. So breathe it out through your left nostril, feel the great relief of it leaving your body. And then into that vacuum as you breathe in through your right nostril, energizing light, in the light of enlightenment, all the enlightening qualities that you wish to develop. And this light floods through your whole being, filling your body. So 3 long, leisurely breaths. And when you've finished the first 3 rounds, then the next 3, swapping the nostrils over. This time breathing out through the right nostril, the black smoke, releasing all the inner toxicity, the disturbing emotions, the confusion, the fractiousness and fear. Let it all go. Breathe it out in the form of smoke that just disappears into space. And then as you breathe in through the left nostril, the energizing light floods through you. Every atom of your body becomes radiant and you absorb all of the enlightening qualities. Infinite love, compassion, wisdom, memory, patience, everything in the form of light flows into you as you breathe in and absorbs into you. So again, 3 long leisurely breaths. And then for the final three rounds, breathing out through both nostrils. And this time feel that you breathe out even the very subtle negativities, even the very deeply entrenched negative habit patterns. And so the smoke begins to grow a little bit lighter, a bit more like mist as you breathe out even that subtle confusion, tiredness and boredom, angst. And as you breathe in, the energizing light through both nostrils floods through you and your body becomes full of vitality and your mind clean, clear, and peaceful. So 3 times through both nostrils. And when you've completed these 9 rounds, then continue to breathe in and out, radiant clarity. Feel that natural spaciousness of the mind. And then naturally let a motivation form in your mind for today's class and the whole course. Adjusting our motivation so it becomes big-hearted for the benefit of all beings, including ourselves in the all beings, that we can make our life most worthwhile, that we can achieve lasting happiness, that we can share this with every living being. And then a nice deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. You can bring your focus back to the room, and we can jump into our first topic, which is about what is happiness. And it's something we all want, indisputably. But do we know what it is? So if you've got an idea, what's happiness to you, just put your hand up and let me know, because even though it's a universal thing, pretty much everybody says different things. So who's got an idea? Susan, yes.
Miffi, I'm not sure what it is. It's a feeling of contentment and balance in your life. But I just have to say that this particular day, I'm not feeling any of it. This is a unique day. It's the day after the election. I've been feeling sick at my stomach all day, and I'm feeling sick right now, so I have to leave. So I want to thank you very much for the class.
Oh,
Yeah,
just turn your camera off and lie down and listen. Just lie down on the floor and listen, honestly, because you will get to the bit where you'll be able to do something with this feeling. So I'm asking you, Susan, don't chop your nose off to spite your face. Just get a nice pillow and lie down on the floor and close your eyes and listen. That's all you have to do.
yeah, I can do that for a while, but I'm really not feeling well. I'll do that for a little
Yep.
while.
Yep. Thank you, Susan. And I hear you. We've also been following it from this side of the world too. And I've been contemplating how on earth I can pull it into our class today. So stay tuned, everybody. What about everybody else in this day where it seems happiness is so far away? What do you reckon it is? What are we wanting that we don't have? Peggy, is that?
Yeah. Happiness for me is when I do something for somebody else. It might be service, it might be listening to them, it might be helping them in some way and making connection. And that gives me great happiness.
Yeah, fantastic. Yep, I think we can all relate to that. Anybody else? What's happiness? Really?
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I know when I feel happy, I feel very light.
Yeah, that's
And
right. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Exactly. It changes.
Yeah, it changes. That's right. Yes. Yes, Angelina.
I feel like a big part of happiness for me is gratitude. So,
Uh-huh.
remembering and focusing on being grateful for everything that is going right and that I do have.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's one of the main causes of happiness, actually, is gratitude and rejoicing. But neurologically, it's really tricky to do because our mind automatically goes to the negative, and it takes effort to put it onto the positive. And so if we're tired, if we're stressed, our mind is just drawn to the negative all the time. We need energy to put it onto the positive. We're just hardwired that way. So once we know that, we kind of know it's worth putting in the energy because just waiting, it's not going to happen. So yeah, good point, Angelina. Yeah. So let's have a look at the way that the Buddha kind of described happiness. And just like you said, it's different things. And we may not even be able to put our finger on it. But the Buddha identified three levels of happiness, or three types of happiness. And so the first level is actually called the lesser happiness of clinging. which doesn't sound happy at all. But it's pretty much the one that we spend the most time on. And this happiness is all about what we get from the world. It's external sources of happiness, mostly the happiness of sensual pleasure, what comes in from the senses. If we enjoy good food, we always want to have yummy food, boring food. Probably only want to have boring food if we're sick. But, we have cravings for food. We like to hear music that we enjoy, not music that we hate. We like to have nice clothes. We kind of get upset when we don't, even if we have nice clothes and we can't find something to wear. All of these things, these enjoyments, they're very much dependent on sensations, physical sensations, what comes in from the senses. And so, of course, it's going to be a changeable thing. And just to illustrate this, so we have our, the external forms of happiness. The pinnacle of this is, for a materialist, is hedonism. Is like, just, if you become a foodie, if that's the pinnacle of life, just to chase these optimal sensual experiences. Wholehearted indulgence in sensual pleasures. And if you're a materialist, that's pretty much the top of the range. There is nothing else than that. So I'm not judging. In fact, there'd be no problem, except there's a drawback. There's a catch. So the catch is pretty obvious, even just by looking at this picture. What happens if we ate all of that? Our initial happiness will change into something else, misery. The initial sugar rush turns into a sugar crash. We've all experienced it. Probably we've all experienced it more than once, which indicates something, doesn't it? That we might know better, but we still go for it because we've got this habitual urge to get external satisfaction. And it is very much like a sugar addiction. So what brings us happiness also causes us the most misery. So it's not that it's morally bad. It's just that it has this drawback that it changes. It's fleeting. The happiness part of all of these yummy looking sweets disappears almost immediately. So the very things that bring us happiness are the very things that cause us misery when they're those external things. Relationships fail, investments fail, the value of money changes, people lose their jobs, kids grow up and leave home. You have a new car and you worry about if it's going to get scratched. All of those things, because they're external sources of happiness, they're kind of out of our control. So that's the sensual pleasures part. There's also a second part of the lesser happiness of clinging. And you can see why it's called the lesser happiness, because it's not the things in themselves, it's our addiction to them, our clinging, that actually is the problem. So the second part of this is the mental happiness, but mental happiness that's dependent on external sources. And so this is things like mental stimulation, a good book, a good movie. We're a bit bored. Maybe we want to go shopping. Maybe we want to go to the movies. Maybe we scroll through, doom scroll on Reddit. Also, the mental satisfaction that comes from ordinary life, like if you have a chance to have a good job, the satisfaction of thinking, I'm earning a good living, I'm doing my bit, I'm paving the way. That's the earning an honest living thing is largely a working class kind of ethic, I suppose. But all of these things we may have, like I've put this picture here. This is my ideal study. It's got a couch, it's got leopard skin, and it's got books and a nice sunny window. So if I'm there, I might be tempted to think I'm happy and content. But what if they build a brick monstrosity right outside the window? What if I'm sick? What if the government of the day changes? Suddenly, what we thought was okay in our life is now not okay, because this happiness that we have, it depends on the conditions. So even nothing changes, but just we get sick, our whole mood plummets, doesn't it? Where it's very difficult to have a broken arm or to have the flu and be positive and full of beans. It takes a lot of effort. So even when life is going well, we can get lulled into a false sense of security because, we think everything's okay, but we can just tell one of those conditions changes and the whole thing falls down. Now, the trick is that no matter how hard we strive to control these external conditions, things are out of our control. So it's like we're putting our effort into the wrong thing. That it doesn't, even if we could control all of our external circumstances, if we can't control our mind, it's not going to work. But I think because we're in a fairly fortunate situation, we're in an affluent country, we have some spare time to come along to a class, we kind of feel that if we just keep adjusting things, one day it'll be okay. And it's a red herring. Actually, when things change and conditions change, it reminds us we don't have control over our circumstances like this. The only thing that we have control over is our mind. That's actually where we can be putting our energy. So far so good. What questions or comments do you have about this? Anything at all?
Where would drugs and alcohol fall into this? Is that also considered a sensual pleasure?
Yeah, it is. That's right. Because and there it is. The addiction of if our happiness depends on a drug or alcohol, like I self-medicated with vodka for a good 15 years. And it worked for a time, quite a long time. I was a happy drunk. It meant I could go out of the house. It meant I could converse with people. And so in itself, it's not really a problem, but the problem is that it's out of our control and that sense of well-being wears off. And so to get that sense of well-being back, we need that external thing. Now, it would be okay if we could always get that external thing and if it had no side effects. But that's the thing with drugs and alcohol, they all have side effects that end up being worse than their medicinal properties. And, so with alcohol, in the end, I just became completely toxic and I became a toxic, belligerent drunk after 15 years. It just turned. And that's what happens. It'll kill you. It killed my ex-husband. So it's not a long-term solution. Then we've got things like medicine, which can also help. It gives us a window of opportunity. And I think actually, a lot of people do take drugs and alcohol as self-medicating, or as a hedonist because they're a materialist and that's what they see as all there is. So in a way, both of them are fair enough, but the drawbacks are huge. And again, with medicine, if we don't take that window of opportunity that taking medication gives us to work on our mind, we don't make any progress either. And sometimes the medication then stops helping. So really excellent question, Mary. Anybody else? Yeah, Lily.
Yeah, Well, I'm sure you're going to get to this, but I guess the last thing you just said was, the only thing we have control over is our mind.
Yep, that's right.
But do I? Can I? Do I? I try.
Yep, that's right. Well, it's practice. It's really, it is just simple practice. And, if you just think back to like when we were 2, maybe you can't remember, but our parents would, and we were learning to walk. We just tried. We just tried and tried and tried and fell down and cried and bawled our eyes out and whatever. And now here we are walking.
It's natural.
And it's natural and we take it for granted. And we do so much more than walking. But in the beginning, it was a big effort. Yeah. Hang on. Oh, Damien, did you have something or no? You just
I did, yeah, real quick.
Okay.
I'm wondering, so we can't control our thoughts. I mean, sorry, we can control our thoughts. And we can control our feelings then as well, right? So
yeah.
Therefore when people say, you got to feel your feelings, what are we aiming for? Are we aiming to control our feelings?
So the thing is we don't necessarily have to feel our feelings, but we have to recognize them. We have to recognize our feelings, and actually without even layering anything else on top of them, like a meaning or a story. And what's very helpful is to recognize a feeling as an emotional sensation. Like we have a physical sensation, we have emotional sensations. And largely, when we're in this level of the lesser happiness of clinging, we just want a happy sensation. And we don't care where it comes from. But it's very superficial. It has no deep meaning in it whatsoever. And it comes and goes just like that. Just with a word, as we know. So you're all kind of, it's leading to our next level of happiness, which is called the higher sources of happiness. And I've got 3 kind of main areas with this. So one of them, the main thing is to think that it's, instead of what we get, it's what we bring, it's what we contribute to the world. And the first way that we can describe this is actually a sensation of renunciation. So when I first hear this word renunciation, I always thought, letting go of all the things you love. It's not what renunciation is. This renunciation is actually about dropping mundane concerns. It's about something greater than ourselves. It's called eudaimonic happiness. And it's where sharing makes us feel happy. So I think one of you said that right at the beginning. This is it. This is a higher source of happiness. And it is much deeper than a mood or a sensation. So you might wonder, what is this picture that I've put up? It's actually from the floods in Brisbane. But, I mean, we've just witnessed on the telly the horrendous floods in Spain. And all the hundreds and thousands of people out there helping to clean up, and how insurmountable it was. So if you'd been thinking, oh, this is not possible, you just wouldn't even do it. But everybody's out there helping. And the same thing happened here in Brisbane. And so why? I mean, it's really stinky. It's really hard work. There's diseases and sewage. You get tired, all of this. And yet, when they had the call out for the help of, come and help with the floods, they thought a few hundred people would show up, and thousands of people showed up. So why? When we look at what's happening with the senses, sensual pleasure, no, none, the opposite. And yet there's that really deep sense of satisfaction and connection, and total strangers made friends and helped each other, this sense of community. So why this is called renunciation is that we stop focusing on the physical discomfort and we start focusing on helping others, just like you said. So we shift our focus and everything changes. So even if we're going through a hard time in our own life, if we get involved in something like this and help others, that's a deeper thing. And it's something that we can come back to. We can be feeling quite down, but we can remember a time when we were involved like that and helped. And remembering that still nourishes us. So it's much more lasting. And even so, it's going on with this thought of renunciation, it's like if we share a meal, we're letting go of some of our food. We have less food, but we have an enriched experience. So this one, if we want something that is deeper than just a mood, deeper than just a sensory experience, deeper than just a drug high, this is where we're going with it. And one of the ways that opens it up for us is this renunciation of fixating on just pleasant things and going a bit deeper, helping others. There's a second and a third part to this one, these higher sources of happiness. So the second part we can call letting go. Someone might have said to you at some stage, oh, just let it go. I think there's even a movie about it, a kids movie, which I haven't seen. My mother used to say, let it go. And I just go, oh, no, like telling me, I'm just like, it's hard to let go. So one, because like I was saying, we're physiologically we're wired to focus on the negativities because it's kept us alive. It's a biological imperative, but it doesn't contribute to our happiness. So one of the ways to let go of disturbing emotions is to become very attuned to when they're about to arise and nip it in the bud. Be really firm about it and not let yourself start ruminating. And once you notice that you're ruminating, how terrible, how awful, don't let it go on. Change the channel and go and do something else. The further we let it go on, the more difficult it is going to be. So that's part of why we'd have a mindfulness practice and check our motivation in the morning and kind of notice our state of mind so that if we're getting a bit tippy, if our state of mind is really dark, we're prepared to care for our mind. So that's one way of letting it go, is to not even let it develop in the first place. Now, if it has developed, there's another way that we can let it go, which is to say, you know what? It's not worth it. Holding on to this anger, it's not worth it. It's just harming me. It's not harming them. For my own peace of mind, it's not worth it. And that way we can kind of release it, even if we're justified, even if we're right. Dwelling on how bad it all is not worth it for us, and especially not in that way. There are better ways, but not like this. How do we let go of that even when we're saying it's not worth it? It's a little counterintuitive because it's not by fighting that bad sensation. It's not by fighting the fear or the depression or the anxiety, because that just makes it bigger. It's by shifting our focus and looking at the big picture. And I think one of you said gratitude. So gratitude is recognizing the big picture. So we've got Here we are. What we bring to the world, letting go, avoiding rumination. So that going around and around and around, digging the track deeper, it's just disaster for us. We have to do something else. Recognizing that following the negativity is not worth it, focusing actually on what matters, and stopping letting go what others think. What others think of us, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make any effect on us. It's just words. It's not going to change who we are unless what they have to say has an element of truth, and then we can use it. Just not to worry about that. So letting go, and then are there any questions or comments about this now? Because you were all edging towards this just naturally. How are we going? So far, so good. Okay. Oh, Peggy, yeah.
I heard I believe it was actually a sermon recently about when you live your life thinking that people are burdens. Like, I don't want to help in that situation because I consider it a burden. And it made me realize that I think about that. I think things are burdens often. And I'm trying to determine those situations and say, oh, you're thinking about it as a burden, and you need to control your mind and don't think about it as a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this something like this probably needs real careful steps through it, because it very may well be a burden. Like anyone who's a carer, it is a burden. On that physical level, when we're just looking at those kind of the lesser sources of happiness, when it's about the senses, being a carer is a burden. It's tiring. It ruins your health. You don't get to do all the fun things you want to do. There's a huge responsibility. It's a thankless task. You can go on and on and on. And it seems like there's no way out. So yes, on that level, it's a burden. And you're right, Peggy, unless we start thinking about it differently, it's just going to crush us. But that's on that first level. So then to make it a higher source of happiness, then you recognize here you get to develop your qualities. You get to develop patience, perseverance. You can have an unflagging confidence that you are a good person, regardless of how difficult a situation is. How many people can say that about themselves? It's huge. You are, from a Buddhist point of view, you're paying off a karmic debt. You're going to be free of that karmic debt. You're actually doing something worthwhile with your life. You're not just pissing your life up against the wall. You're actually contributing to the welfare of others. So this takes some effort to think about, but it is a higher source of happiness. And that's often, as you would know, that's the only way through. Otherwise, you're crushed. So to really recognize the value of what you're doing. So that's kind of like the renunciation part. The letting it go part is letting go, fighting against it, fighting against the bad feeling. It's just kind of the fighting against it, going, I hate this. It just makes it worse.
Because then you ruminate.
So, yeah, that's right, the ruminating. So that first there's the bad feeling and we don't want it. And then on top of it comes the rumination. That's an addition. So the rumination then tells the story. This is so terrible and why. But actually, the very first bit of just the uncomfortable feeling, you just relax. Let it wash through you instead of fight it. And that's the form of letting go.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, good. Now, someone else had their hand up. Mary?
That was me. So, are there any other things besides gratitude which help us stay positive?
Yes. Well, that's going to be the homework for today. So there's Gratitude is kind of the one that we hear the most about in everyday life, but the Buddhist take on this is slightly different. It's called rejoicing, or as Geshe Zopa says, rejoicement. And that's quite different. And I quite like it because I cringe a little bit when I hear the word gratitude, because in there I hear the word you should be grateful. And so then I'm like, so rejoicing is actually a way of just bringing that happy feeling back into our life. So I'll talk about that at the end of the class. Yep. I know we all want to do it all today, right now, but it is 6 weeks, okay? And I've spread out the whole what's the purpose of life and how we're going to do it over mere 6 weeks, okay? So you've got to stay the course. Now, we've got one more in this level, higher source of happiness, and it's called the happiness of deep concentration. So deep states of meditation or concentration where you're in the flow, where it's effortless concentration, your mind is undisturbed. Sometimes it's called a state of grace. Many painters, athletes, runners, mathematicians will call it being in the flow. And this usually comes from having mastered whatever we're doing, so that we're no longer scratching our head going, oh my gosh, what do I do here? Must remember this, that, whatever. We're just a master at it, and we are one with the activity. And the sense of self kind of relinquishes, it just disappears off to the side. And because we don't have such an acute sense of me and self, what's the word? Self-consciousness, feeling all uptight. We're just one with the activity. All that egotism is just gone. So there is no sorrow in these states. They're timeless, they're transcendent. And for a non-religious path, this is the pinnacle of what we can achieve as a human being. This is really the ultimate for a non-religious person. So why is this not the highest form of happiness? Why is this called the higher, but it's not the highest? What would be the disadvantage of this kind of deep concentration, being in the flow? Anybody?
Well, it's only temporary.
It is. That's right. It's only temporary. It's at some stage. At some stage, the marathon is over. At some stage, if you're in a contemplation, whether it's on a Buddhist topic or whether it's on a mathematical equation, at some stage you're going to have to get up and go to the loo, and that the spell will be broken. And we know, that like some gamers, they don't get up and go to the loo, and so all of their toxins start crystallizing in their sweat, and after 3 days they die. It happens. It's happened several times. So you do actually have to arise. We have to emerge at some stage. Great painters like Jackson Pollock, I've seen videos of him painting and is really completely one with the entire thing. At some stage, the painting is done and the experience is over. And in fact, especially with athletes, like there's a huge rush that comes from, if you've had like 4 years of preparation to finally achieve the thing that you wanted to achieve through incredible renunciation. You have complete mastery, you achieve that thing, and then what? So many athletes really suffer after this because it's so fleeting. Even that achieving that goal, that long-hauled goal, after it's over, now everything else is flat. What's the point of everything else? And actually the athletes that make the best transition to retirement are the ones that do it by becoming mentors, by becoming coaches, by giving back again. And if they can't, if they just go after that experience, that high, have a comeback, it just comes out, it just becomes that chasing that ephemeral happiness again. And there's no sense of satisfaction. And in fact, I think the sense of dissatisfaction is really acute after such a high. And many athletes actually take their own lives. So it's because you're not prepared what to do afterwards, how to give back, how to then take all of that self-discipline and share it with your people. So does it make sense? Has anyone had experienced a state of flow in something that you do? Is it something that you resonate with? Isabella, you're nodding.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I can definitely resonate with the flow state. When you love something, or just, dancing, painting, singing, creative expression,
Yeah,
and you
that's
just
right.
time and space, or where your body is in space.
And we need that, don't we? We need to have that kind of transcendent experience to just, it releases all the other things. It releases the rumination. It releases the tight sense of me and I and having to defend ourselves. One of the effects is that we feel one with everybody, don't we? We feel one with the community. Lily, yeah.
Yeah, I just bringing up the athletic component. I've definitely been in the flow. I've had a lot of different athletic achievements and hobbies that as you get older, you just can't do them the way you had and achieve the way you had, and it's an adjustment. And like I keep searching for that way to get that flow.
Yeah.
Very interesting that I'm going through that.
Yeah, so often we can think that that sense of flow can only come from that thing, but it actually comes from the deep concentration,
Mm-hmm.
wherever we place that. So
Mm-hmm.
I have my sense of deep flow with crochet. Now that's not a profound activity. It's good stress relief, but I really get into a sense of flow there and I'm really good at it. So it's completely enjoyable. And I've also trained my mind that I don't kind of ruminate on all the negative things. I've got it associated now with a habit of rejoicing and gratitude. So there are other things, but I too, Lily, have thought, well, what happens if I can no longer crochet? So last year I broke my finger and I was devastated because it really affected how I wrote and typed and crocheted, the main things I do in life. And that was really scary. So it was a big wake-up call of how much am I, again, relying on this external thing rather than seeing what is it pointing to, which is this ability to really concentrate our mind. And if we can concentrate our mind on something virtuous, meaning something that is a cause of happiness, then we'll be okay. So that, oh yeah, Peggy, yeah.
I think that can be a problem when you retire if you've been in a profession that you really like. So I was a kindergarten teacher, and there were times that I was in the flow. And so the disadvantage if you don't do other things in your life, then when you don't have that flow, you're like, what do I do?
Yeah, so I've asked a few times various, teachers, is that skill transferable? Like whatever, the skill of crochet or the skill of being in the flow with multitudes of small children, like forget about extreme sports. That's one of them. So if you're in the flow with something like that, is that transferable to activity of mind. And so it's not always transferable. We have to make a conscious effort to do that. So we have an experience of what it's like, but to actually transfer it to our inner life takes effort.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have that experience so you know it can be done and how amazing it is. Otherwise,
Yes.
what's the incentive of doing the work?
Right. Right.
So this all leads us then to the final one, which is the highest state of happiness, the bliss of the stages of enlightenment. And so this is the pinnacle. And it's not about what we get from the world, and it's not about what we bring to the world, it's about what we become. So it's a complete transformation, an inner transformation. And I suppose positive psychology calls it an optimal state of flourishing. So it's not like abracadabra, we turn into a Buddha. It's actually ourselves being in a state of optimal flourishing, where we're progressing internally, where we're not a slave to external conditions, where we have control of our mind, where we are cultivating those inner states with as much fervor as we cultivated the external ones. So progressively less bound by disturbing emotions, and as we are, then we feel greater peace and freedom. So the peace and the freedom is the result of being less entangled and less bound. And that comes from being able to have those deeper states of concentration and renunciation and this idea of giving back rather than trying to get. So this optimal state of flourishing, it does not depend on external circumstances. It doesn't matter what the external circumstances are. We can still have this state of optimal flourishing. And in fact, great practitioners, when things are going well, they use that inspiration to motivate them. And when things go badly, they use that as inspiration to motivate them. Both. Whatever happens to us becomes helpful. And so in that way, yes, things can be good or bad, things can go wrong, things can go terribly wrong, but our happiness does not depend on that. It's not beholden to it. So as you can see, then it's our attachment to the external pleasures, those lesser ones, especially just the sensual comforts and enjoyments, that distracts us from lasting inner peace. So this bliss of the stages of enlightenment, it's not necessarily like a big aha moment and we're enlightened. It's bit by bit, like with optimal flourishing or getting fit or getting healthy. Bit by bit, we can feel our strength increasing. We get more confident. And it makes it easier to continue. So when we're fit, I remember a couple of times in my life where I was fit and healthy, and I can remember from being really exhausted and tired and like struggling to open the door of the bank, those big heavy doors. And then when I finally got fit, I opened the door and it went whoosh, knocked someone out because I didn't realize I had all my strength. And so when you are like this, when you're in a state of optimal flourishing, you just think it's normal. It's like, oh, this is how things should be. So it's not like an agitated high. It's much more grounded than that. It's like a really good normal. It's our natural state, unencumbered by all the other things. And our mind is calm because it's not reliant on the external things, which will always change. So it's So sad. I wish Susan was here, because this is the exact thing that will give us hope. And why it's called the stages of enlightenment is that as you progress, it can't really be lost. It's just like when you learn to read. It takes effort to learn to read, but then once you can read, it's not like you have to remember each day. It's there naturally. And in fact, you can't help but read. You see some words and you read them. And then when we have that skill, the whole universe opens up to us. So if we have develop these inner qualities, inner qualities of like patience, concentration, kindness, generosity, that contributes to a healthy mind. And then the natural result is we're more peaceful, we're more calm, especially in a bad situation. And then we can naturally help others. So the last little thing I wanted to say about that was that this isn't like putting something new in to our mind. This is actually kind of revealing our natural state, that if our mind is undisturbed, if we don't have the addictions to external things, to what's coming in through our senses, if we're not agitated like that, if our mind is undisturbed, there's a natural peace and clarity there, and there's a natural goodness. So you might wonder, people aren't naturally good. Well, I think they are, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama thinks they are, and the Buddha thought they were. But again, it takes some convincing, and you know what convinced me was working in a call center. So when I first got the job in a call center, I thought, oh no, I don't cope with rejection. This is going to be horrible. I was so nervous. And I was so worried because I just thought everyone would just hate on me and hang up. And it took a lot of guts to do, actually. But what I found was, by and large, everybody that I rang for the stupid, political polls wanted to help. That was their natural thing. They all just wanted to help. So I think part of it was that when I was on the call, in the time it took me to dial the numbers, I really set a good motivation. And in dialing 8 or 10 numbers, you've just got time to set a motivation that goes, may this person be happier at the end of the call than at the beginning. And so then I really tried my very best to connect as a human being and to be kind and to be respectful. And so pretty much 95% of the people went, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll help. And the only times anyone was rude or hung up or said no way was when there was some disaster going on in the background. So kids were screaming. One time I rang up in the middle of a wake or a funeral or something, or someone's having an argument. Then there'd be the rudeness. But you could hear that in the background. And it just gave me so much faith in humanity. So you probably need to find your own experience with that. But, for me, I'm like, yep, okay, that is true. Everybody's baseline is to be good and kind and have all of those beautiful innate qualities. They're there. And it's just that they're layered upon with rubbish and our addictions and their terrible consequences. Right, so I do have a little meditation for us to do. Before we do the meditation, are there any final comments or questions with our 3 levels of happiness, 3 types of happiness? Anything else? Seems like I've put a convincing case.
I think you're just getting those of us in the States in a particularly bad day. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll probably be more interactive next week.
Yeah, well, that's right. These circumstances change, and look what happens. It can ruin our whole life. Not only that, but it can ruin the planet's life too. So in a way, a lot of this feeling terrible, it's completely legitimate. And we have to draw something from this, which is that addiction to ephemeral pleasures is disaster. It's an addiction. And just like I think one of the climate change scientists was saying that it's like our whole planet, we're addicted to fossil fuels. And just like, if you're a drunk, it's fine for a while and then it harms you. And now the harm is baked in. And so which way are we going to go? So my ex-dead husband, he just couldn't give it up. His sense of happiness and excitement came from alcohol, and he couldn't stop, and he died of liver cancer just like that. And he was shocked that it happened. So everything that you guys are experiencing, and we over the other side of the world, your best buddies are also experiencing. I've got to say, Australians know way more about American politics than we know about our own. We don't even know how our electoral system works, but we know everything about America. So, we're all experiencing this. We've got to look at it with our Dharma wisdom. And the thing to draw from it is to have compassion for us poor, crazy, addicted people as a planet. So I think it is possible to become your best self in the face of adversity. In fact, it gives us even more incentive, because it's not just for ourselves. It's because we have a responsibility for others as well, a really big incentive. So funnily enough, you can be really depressed and despondent today and also have a really deep sense of happiness. Those two things can happen at the same time, because while you can be devastated for what's happening to the world, you can also have a really profound sense of gratitude for having this human life, for having the opportunities that we do, for being able to love and care for others. Like, it balances it out. And we've done good things in our life already, and they count. So those two things, if we can recognize those differences in the types of happiness, we can start really appreciating what we have, and without worrying so much about the day-to-day catastrophes as they come and go. Like in a week, or like you said, Jessica, in a few days, you'll be over it, as we are with everything else.
I appreciate that. I think probably we won't be over it in a few days, but we'll be more acclimated to it and have
Yeah, that's right.
sense of a way through. Sorry, but Lily, I cut you off.
Yeah, Lily?
Oh, I was just going to say, because you were talking about how, that people are inherently good, inherently.
Yeah.
It's just been kind of mystifying, I think, today to see.
That's right, because people are not inherently rational.
Rational,
they are inherently
better
good,
word.
But they're not inherently logical. They do not use reason. They just want the fantasy. They want the fantasy of those sweet lollies. Just give me those lollies. It's a tragedy. So it takes effort to be reasonable and logical.
and good. And good.
Yeah, it takes a lot of training. So let's do this meditation, and then I'll give you your excellent homework for the week. So the 3 types of happiness, or I suppose the other title of this meditation is the snacks and the feasts and the farm. So let's just settle into a nice meditation posture and feel yourself sink into stillness like a tea bag steeping in hot water. And take a deep, nourishing breath and let your attention settle naturally like cream gently dissolving into your cup of tea. And generate the motivation to understand the different levels of happiness, recognizing how this wisdom can benefit you and all beings. So consider how often we reach for a quick snack when we're hungry. This represents our habitual pursuit of immediate pleasure. And this first type of happiness, like a candy or a cake, provides instant gratification, but it leaves us wanting more. Just as the satisfaction from a snack fades quickly, leaving us hungry again, hedonic pleasures create a cycle of temporary relief and renewed craving. It's like being caught in an endless sushi train of experiences, each morsel providing momentary pleasure before we reach for the next plate. And now consider the deeper satisfaction of preparing a feast, the time and care invested in creating something meaningful, like preparing a nourishing meal for loved ones. Eudaimonic happiness comes from bringing our gifts to the world. And as the meal disappears, the sense of community grows. So feel how this happiness is more substantial, like the warmth of sharing a home-cooked meal versus grabbing fast food. And finally, imagine the profound fulfillment of tending your own farm, a living ecosystem that sustains not just you, but many others. This is like the highest form of happiness, becoming a source of nourishment and wisdom that naturally benefits so many beings. And feel how different this is from consuming snacks or even preparing feasts. It's about becoming the very soil from which abundance grows. Like a well-tended farm that produces food season after season, this happiness becomes self-sustaining. It's naturally generous. So how might cultivating your own garden of virtue transform your experience of happiness? So to dedicate today's merits, today's effort of coming along, of contemplating and thinking and challenging your mind, dedicate to begin to explore how you might shift from being a consumer of fleeting pleasures to being a cultivator of lasting joy for the benefit of all. And then in your own time, bring your focus back to the room. And okay, so in summary, I'm a little reading here from a great book actually called Happier by Tar Ben Shahar, Israeli guy. And he says, he's talking about happiness perception. Happiness perception is about recognizing that happiness is the ultimate currency and it's the end towards which all other goals lead. Happiness perception is not about rejecting the material, but rather dethroning it from its status as the highest on the hierarchy. Aristotle understood this when he wrote that happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. As did His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who asserted that whether one believes in religion or not, whether one believes in this religion or that religion, the very purpose of our life is happiness. The very motion of our life is towards happiness. The currency through which we take stock of our life, our perception of what matters, has wide-ranging consequences for our personal lives and for society as a whole. So it's interesting, he talks about happiness as a currency. So normally our understanding what currency we stop at is economics, isn't it? That's top of the hierarchy. But we don't kind of realize that without happiness, economics is meaningless. So we all enjoy higher levels of well-being when we recognize and internalize the fact that happiness is the ultimate currency. What will make me happier? It's about finding the overlap between three questions. What gives me meaning? What gives me pleasure? What are my strengths? It's about asking, what is my calling? And identifying the things that you really, really want to do at work, at school, with your whole life. And with these questions comes a much higher likelihood that you will find the ultimate currency. So our summary for today then, we've looked at these three types of happiness. The lesser forms of happiness, nothing wrong with them. They're fantastic. They're what we get from the world. We need them to live, but they distract us and we put them up at the top of the hierarchy. Lasting happiness, it comes from within. So beginning by sharing our gifts with the world, by helping others. And as we do, then we develop, we cultivate our inner qualities. And those are lasting. It changes who we are. And so it's what we become. So the homework, there should be some notes that were sent out to you, or they're available on the Lungi Tampa Centre package. If you don't have them, then please contact either of the centres and we'll sort it out for you. So there are reflection sheets in those notes on happiness, some questions about happiness and questions about your personal goals. So just fill them in over coffee and cornflakes in the morning. Nothing big deal, but it's good just to jot it down as we're going through. Also because it's nice to go back and compare these notes from last time and see how you've changed. Positive proof. The other thing is to start the gratitude and rejoicing journal. So all of these things are on pages 3, 6, and 8 of those notes. So the journal, the rejoicing and gratitude journal, there's a couple of things that you can do. Try and include all those 3 levels of happiness. So things that you're grateful for or feel lucky about might be stuff that you have. You have a roof over your head. You have enough to eat. You've got good friends. But also then that second level of happiness, that's really where the rejoicing comes in. Rejoice at the times where you helped others. Recognize those good qualities that you have. And instead of dwelling on the things that I want and don't have and all that kind of thing, actually let your mind dwell on the times you did good, the times you helped others, the times you didn't say the hurtful thing, and really rejoice about that. And then you can also rejoice about the good things other people did. It's really nice. It's happiness making to remember those things. And the third level that you can do for the gratitude and rejoicing is just to recognize the development of your own good qualities, but also the good qualities that others possess, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, like any of your heroes. You can rejoice about that. You can feel gratitude for that, for having that kind of role model, and really enrich your whole being by ruminating on that. So the whole thing about rejoicing or gratitude is that it is a free way to generate happiness. You don't have to buy anything, don't have to have anything extra. You just turn your mind to what's already there and you get happy. It is so amazing. And if you draw a blank, perhaps today you're drawing a blank because you're kind of punch drunk about what's happened. But if you draw a blank, it's not because there aren't things to rejoice about and be grateful. It's that you just can't access them. So you just write them down, folks. It's going to be hard at first, but they're all there. All right. And the other thing then, what's coming up next week? How to keep sight of your goals and not get distracted. Also to not corrupt your good-heartedness and your positive ambitions, and how to combat doubts and competitiveness. So all of that is about dealing with what are called the 8 worldly concerns and what we can do about them. So thanks everybody for coming along and for your attention and your good-heartedness. You've already made your life most worthwhile today. And especially if you're feeling a bit down, then contact those deeper sources of happiness that are below that mood. And reach out to others. And I really hope to see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Well, take care.
Thank you, Miffi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miffi.